Yay!
So, all the way back in July of 1998, back when the world was significantly more simple, the first video game related to the then blossoming Yu-Gi-Oh franchise was released to the Japanese public, titled Yu-Gi-Oh! Monster Capsule Breed and Battle for the
PlayStation.
The game was an interpretation of both the Capsule Monsters board game as well as the Monster World tabletop RPG from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Manga, melded together into a Frankenstein's monster of an experience. You can't super poly that into anything relevant, unfortunately. Packaged with this game's disc was a set of 10 specially made promotional cards under what's known as the holofoil rarity, a glossy, ironically unholographic type of finish unique to this type of rarity alone. They honestly feel closer to how Pokemon cards do over how Yu-Gi-Oh cards would eventually feel like, if that makes sense. These cards, in alphabetical order, were Batty, Blue Eyes White Dragon, Demonis, Dinosaur Wing, Ironoid, Holy Elf, Red Scorpion, Japanese Grass Lizard, Sonic Eye, and Zork. Gamers who purchased Yu-Gi-Oh! Monster Capsule Breed and Battle were given 3 of these cards per copy of the game, chosen seemingly at random. Roughly 2 months later, on the 26th and 27th of September, Konami would hold a few events allowing gamers in Japan to playtest the development build of the newest game being created for the series, called Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters. Individuals who attended these events in person and filled out a questionnaire detailing their thoughts on the game were awarded a copy of Holy Knight Dragon, which is the only one of these holofoil rares not part of an actual set, outside of this series of cards as a whole. Skip ahead another 3 months to December 16th, 1998, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters would officially release to the masses, coming with another 10 new promotional holofoil cards. This time, gamers in Japan received Black Demon's Dragon, Black Magician, Castle of Obscuring Darkness, Cyclops, Gargoyle, Mirror Force, Monster Reborn, Red Eyes Black Dragon, Thumb and Skull, and Swords of Revealing Light. Once again, individuals would receive 3 of these cards per copy of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, chosen seemingly at random. Now let's talk specifics, since I'm sure you have some questions. First off, yes, I've been using the Japanese release names for all of these cards, since these promotional items were never released outside of Japan, but obviously the majority of you will be familiar with the English names for cards like Cyclops, which is Hitachi Giant, or Black Magician, which is Dark Magician. Second, no, none of these cards can actually be used for paper play under any circumstances. These cards are, by all means, a proof of concept by Konami for their eventual official physical trading card game, which wouldn't release until early the next year on February 4th, 1999, with OCG Volume 1. There is no rule set centered around these 21 cards, nor would it even be financially viable to buy multiple copies of the same game over and over in an attempt to build a quote-unquote meta deck using this card pool. None of the monster cards have any flavor text. All of the text here is simply copyright information. The magic and trap cards do have some pretty silly sounding effects that are way less strictly worded than their modern day official counterparts, which makes for a pretty fun read. Mirror Force says, when the opponent declares an attack, the Sacred Barrier wipes out the enemy forces. Monster Reborn says, it can resurrect the souls of monsters, whether friend or foe, and turn them into allies. And Swords of Revealing Light says, a sword of holy light rains down from the heavens, dealing the power of even the most formidable monsters for 3 turns. Incredible stuff, truly. Third, yes, you would need to buy the 2 games that feature the 2 10-card promo sets roughly 4 times each to get every single one, and that is with absolutely perfect luck. I can only imagine how pissed you'd end up getting spending your hard-earned money on freaking Capsule Monsters Breed and Battle over and over again, trying to finally get your own Blue Eyes White Dragon, only to end up with your 4th copy of fucking Red Scorpion. Siyaryu, or Holy Knight Dragon, as I stated previously, is the singular exception to this, as there was genuinely no way to receive this card outside of the 2-day playtesting events for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters, besides a one-time giveaway in the Shonen Jump seasonal magazine variant Akamaru Jump, in which only a solitary 5 winners were ever chosen. I was finally able to complete my own set of these cards a few years ago, and the Siyaryu was by far the most difficult to track down, and also the most expensive. Honestly, embarrassingly expensive for what it is, but there it is. At least I can always use this thing to pay my rent if things get bad, right? Please don't rob me. Fourth, I'm sure you're wondering what these things are, given the general familiarity most Yu-Gi-Oh fans will have with the rest of these holofoil promos. These monsters are Yu-Gi-Oh variants of a few Capsule Monster exclusive creatures, which is why the majority of them have an art style far removed from what we're familiar with from old school Yu-Gi-Oh cards. All of these would suck massive dick if they had ever been imported into the actual OCG or TCG as normal monsters. Though, given that we have just received a new Yu-Gi-Oh card referencing capsule monsters, it's not out of the realm of possibility for these, or other cards from Breed and Battle, to see some sort of cardboard print. Fifth, yes, there are differences between these prototype Dual Monsters cards and their eventual imprint counterparts. Summon Skull is a level 7 monster instead of a level 6, which would have definitely caused a substantial meta change given that this was the highest attack monster for a long time that only required a single tribute to summon onto the field. Hitatami Giant is a level 5 monster instead of a level 4. Instead of being a level 8 monster with 2700 attack and 1500 defense, Dork is a level 7 monster with 2500 attack and 2000 defense. Oh my god, it's got ace monster stats. He was supposed to be the main character this whole time. Though by far the most puzzling is Castle of Dark Illusions, which is a level 6 monster instead of a level 4 and has 1200 attack and 2500 defense instead of whatever the hell is going on here. These combat stats that you see here on the official version of Castle of Dark Illusions, as well as cards like King of Yamamakai and Dark Chimera, are actually a reference to the events of Duelist Kingdom, in which monsters that were able to receive a terrain or weather stat boost were given a flat 30% increase to their combat statistics. Since Panic, the duelist that used this card in the story, used monsters that thrived in darkness, he dueled players at night so that they had an advantage over them. The weird thing about these stats compared to these stats is that the first 2 Duel Monsters games use these stats, and then the next 2 games after that use these stats. The 4th game even makes Castle of Dark Illusions a level 8 monster for some reason. The Sacred Cards, Rechef of Destruction, and even the manga use them too, but every other Yu-Gi-Oh game, and even the anime, use these stats. What gives? Are you guys stupid? Am I stupid? No, it is the multi-billion-dollar company that is wrong. Anyway, that's it. Bye-bye.